what it says. Every time a permanent member vetoes something, they must give a reason for it. How does this work? The United Nations Security Council has 5 permanent members: the United States, the UK, France, Russia, and China. The P5 have the power to veto any resolution. So every time they veto a resolution, the assembly will be convened immediately. They must explain why this veto was cast. But here's the catch and the key takeaway. This UNGA resolution is non-binding, which means that if the P5 do not want to explain their veto, no one can force them to do so. The veto power has been under scrutiny for a long time. The United Nations Security Council has 5 permanent members and 10 non-permanent ones, but these 10 do not have veto rights. So why just these 5 countries? The United Nations was formed just after the Second World War. Permanent membership was granted then to these 5 states. This was on the basis of their importance in the world order back then. Since 1945, over 200 UN Security Council proposals have been vetoed. The first veto, in fact, was used in 1946. This was by the then Soviet Union on Syria and Lebanon. And since then, Russia has used it over 143 times. The United States, 86 times. The UK, 30 times. And China and France have both used it over 18 times. The fact is, the world order has changed a lot since then. But the Security Council's veto rights remain dated. The same countries continue to use veto resolutions, paralyzing what is calling the UN's most powerful body throughout the war. The UNSC has been a sitting duck, with vetoes cancelling any chance for meaningful action. Now, will the new resolution mean that the P5 will use its veto powers less? Well, that is highly unlikely, given that it is non-binding. These 5 can easily get away without any explanation. And this is a point that India raised today. New Delhi has called this new resolution a piecemeal initiative. It says the resolution ignores the root cause of the problem.
When a group of pro-reform member states, including India, had moved a similar such initiative nearly a decade ago, which also called for an improvement in the working methods of the Council, we were accused of promoting a piecemeal approach to UN Security Council reform. It is therefore ironical that the same set of member states who argue vociferously against piecemeal reform in the IGN are today themselves supporting a piecemeal initiative which ignores the root cause of the problem.
What India essentially wants is a more representative council, one that includes more underrepresented voices. New Delhi says that either all members should have veto power or no one should have it.
We regret the lack of inclusivity in the manner this resolution was put forth. We have serious concerns about such take it or leave it initiatives which do not make a genuine effort to take into account the perspectives and concerns of the wider membership.
And to talk about India's statement and the very fact that this has been called a piecemeal initiative by New Delhi, with us on the broadcast is Ambassador Manjeev Singh Puri, former ambassador of India to the United Nations. Thanks very much, Ambassador, for being here with us. Let me begin by asking you for your initial reaction to this resolution. It's non-binding. The P5 members may or may not justify their veto. So what purpose does this resolution serve them?
Thank you very much. You know, resolutions at the United Nations have a political intent, and so did this resolution. A small country, Liechtenstein, piloted the resolution, and the co-sponsors included Britain, France, and the United Kingdom. And what exactly is the purpose here? In the context of Ukraine, it sort of shows the Russians and the Chinese in bad light. What do you think was our real issue? By the way, the resolution has been adopted with consensus. Everybody has made their point. You are absolutely right. General Assembly resolutions are non-binding. But there's a political signaling which is taking place, which is a kind of, let me put it like this, and a further attempt to name and shame Russia. Now, why did we say this was a peace deal? Because what is it dealing with? The crux of the matter at the UN Security Council is that it reflects a world of post 1945 and not the world that exists today. Moreover, this world is iniquitous because 5 countries have managed to get for themselves from those days a veto power which blocks the United Nations from undertaking any meaningful activity in truly serious matters, including the one between Ukraine and Russia. And so, therefore, instead of going for the more important element, which is its expansion, its recasting, these kind of measures are laid. But look, this is par for the course. The United Nations is a political body, and countries seek to make political points. Liechtenstein is a small little country. It, in a sense, reinforces their relevance in the game, but they also bat for others, which is quite obvious. We have to say what is in our interest, and that's exactly what our Deputy Permanent Representative said in the UN General Assembly.
Right, Ambassador, taking a cue from what you just said, the very need for the United Nations to keep up with the times has been dragging its feet when it comes to these much-needed reforms. India has said, give veto power to all members or no one. There's also the issue of the expansion of the Council, which has been a long pending demand. If you can just highlight for our viewers the very significance of these reforms that India has been pushing for.
Well, the most fundamental reform is that the Council should reflect the world as is today, i.e. contemporary reality. So, let me leave this thought with your viewers, and this is being put a bit provocatively. If supposing 5 top countries of the world were to be chosen today, would you think that the 2 European members would qualify? I don't think most people would agree with that. This being the situation, the fact of the matter is that the so-called victors or those who are important in 1945 continue to have the greatest effort. And therefore, the main demand is a recasting of the UN Security Council. Because of expediency, no one says the whole thing should be recast, except that it should be expanded in its permanent membership. And the G4, which is India, Japan, Brazil, and Germany, have been leading this particular voice. Now, coming to the veto, of course, ideally speaking, either the veto should be abolished and the Security Council should work on the principle of majority within the Council, or the veto right should exist with all permanent members. This, of course, is another contentious issue. Even if somebody says that, well, we are willing to consider an expansion of the permanent membership, they are very loath to the entire idea of sharing their extraordinary power, which is the power of veto. Well, this is the way the global games are played, and this will continue to happen. But it is my considered belief that as time goes on and the relevance of these countries, especially India, increases in the world, the permanent members would find it advantageous to have India in as a permanent member rather than outside.
Ambassador Puri, we're leaving it there for the moment. Thanks.